Welcome to a look into the labor force, a CKPG News Special, taking a look at the labor force at what's a very interesting time for many businesses, and it's likely affected your life too, whether it's a delayed delivery of a package or simply you can't get the product that you wanted. It's an interesting spot, and we haven't been in this place for quite some time. It's also interesting for Prince George, being one of the leaders across the country when it comes to jobs.
We are seeing BC and Canada recover strong from the pandemic. BC continues to lead every province in our economic recovery. In fact, we have 103% recovery rate, 3% more people working right now in BC than we did prior to the pandemic. And Prince George is leading that way. Prince George, with an unemployment rate of 3.2%, is leading the country in the economic recovery.
Put it this way, July added nearly 15,000 full-time jobs in British Columbia, and the labor outlook points to that number of jobs continuing to grow. This trend has been expected for some time, with a full Canadian generation of baby boomers at or near retirement age. Add that to new jobs being created, there's vacancies that will need to be filled there as well. A healthy situation for working-age members of the population until it isn't.
Well, it's not just in Prince George, it's across the province and certainly across the region that we live in. There is a significant shortage of people looking to be employed. And that's a real challenge. You know, we see restaurants that are having to adjust hours, a number of things that impact residents. Certainly saw it when I was in the Peace River recently on a work trip. Really significant challenges there. So we're seeing a real tightening of the availability of labor. And that's going to be a real challenge for us moving ahead. And many people are asking the question, where did people go? You know, when we are post-COVID, people are asking themselves what happened, why are people choosing not to be in the labor market? So I think those are things that the government's going to have to take a look at and look at how they're going to continue to support, especially small businesses.
BC actually boasts more small businesses per capita than any other province. Roughly 1 in 10 British Columbians are small business entrepreneurs of some kind, and it's no secret many of those small businesses are struggling to find staff.
My clients at Scotiabank and lots of members at the Chamber, we're hearing struggles just absolutely everywhere.
The jobs numbers have been consistently good for months and will likely continue to be, but many would argue too good to be healthy.
I like to say that small and medium businesses are the backbone of the provincial economy. And if that's the case, then the people are the heart and soul of those businesses. And that might sound cliche, but I can tell you as a former business owner, nothing much happens without people. So we do need people. And there's an acute labor shortage going on at the moment, as you know, and your listeners will have experienced that firsthand, no doubt.
The question remains from all parties, where did the people go? While some may point to the great resignation thanks to COVID-19, it may also be big projects pushing the percentage of those unemployed to around the margin of a statistical zero. Keep in mind, Prince George is far below the provincial average. The opposition sees it as a province doing some padding of their own numbers too.
I think a lot of people are wondering actually where a lot of these folks have disappeared to. I do know where 120,000 of them have disappeared to. They've gone into the provincial government. The provincial government has increased the size of the civil service by 1/3, almost 1/3 in the 5 years they've been in power. That is remarkable, frankly. And the only problem I have is I always say to the public, with a 30% increase in the civil service, has anybody noticed a 30% improvement in services anywhere? And I've yet to find a British Columbian that says, yes, I've definitely noticed an improvement in healthcare or in policing or in, forestry management or any of those areas. So I think that's one of the questions they have to answer is what are all these people doing that they're hiring?
Nonetheless, what still remains are a lot of job openings. The biggest openings expected in healthcare, social assistance, and education industries, highlighting the importance of post-secondaries who will need to pump out the next generation in a hurry to fill the gaps, highlighting that in bright lettering for Northern BC.
I don't think there's been enough analysis done as to why we're facing the challenges that we are. One of the things that's absolutely critical to me is that we continue to train people here in northern British Columbia. We know that we've always had a shortage of professionals, particularly on the healthcare side. So we need to continue training, encourage people to take programs that will get them into the job market. So we know that it's a significant challenge, especially if you're a small business owner and you're trying to run your business. There are challenges with affordability and now staffing. That's going to be a tough fall. So we're going to have to continue to call on the government to look at how they're going to provide the support necessary to make sure that we can continue to grow the economy in British Columbia.
And grow it will. Education leaders agree the importance of the age-old saying, train in the north, stay in the north, has been amplified once again. In the words of Malcolm X, education is the passport to the future, and it certainly is for plenty of sectors. Nearly 80% of the forecasted job openings in the next 10 years in BC will require some form of post-secondary education, making places like the University of Northern BC and the College of New Caledonia very crucial.
You're right. I mean, as an institution, our role is to have academic offerings that are going to set students up for success in whatever their next destination is, whether that's evolving our current offerings or, bringing in new opportunities, such as a vet school or things like that. So I see the university's role in that as significant. The data that's coming out from the provincial government in terms of where they see the sort of the labor market analysis of, 1 million new jobs coming to British Columbia, almost 75 to 80% of those are going to require post-secondary sort of training. So UNBC is going to have to be a significant part of that going forward.
Great for students, but the traditional value of coming to college, a place like CNC, remains. There's lots of work, but often the better jobs still require post-secondary education and training. So, there's always a tug and pull for a student, whether they should go straight into the workforce or whether they should come to school and potentially get a better job, have a better career after that investment of time.
The provincial government and the feds have both chipped in big dollars to try and break barriers for students attending post-secondaries. Over the last 5 years, BC has secured nearly $3 billion in funds for various groups to gain employment skills, trades, and healthcare being the major areas in need.
As we all know, things are getting more complicated. Technology, the complexity of the world we live in, it just puts more and more pressure on individuals to get the education.
And the Independent Contractors Association of BC agrees. There's plenty of need and opportunity, too, in the trades.
We got to look at, outside the Lower Mainland, how do we increase training seats? It's really difficult for kids to go down to BCIT, leave their family, lots of money there. So training spaces need to increase outside Lower Mainland.
Something Prince George has become a hub for, employment-wise, and in terms of training, too.
For our membership that's made up about 4,000 people, how it's impacting them, spending more time on recruiting, deferring projects, spending more on overtime, or even not bidding on projects. So that's what's happening at our membership level. But let's look at the bigger level. Stats Canada released in June 1 million new jobs in Canada. So if you look at construction, accounting for 10% of that, then you look at, so that's 100,000 jobs. You look at British Columbia, that's probably 15,000 jobs. So that's a lot of jobs and nobody to fill them.
This all aligns with post-secondary strategic plans. One of the categories is even being labeled learning over a lifetime. And given the rapid change in technology, it makes sense. One example is certified mechanics training to become certified in the field of electric vehicles. And while retraining is important, for the first time, people 29 or younger entering the workforce will be the largest source of BC's new labor supply, expected to fill 48% of job openings for the next 10 years. Keep in mind, many of these jobs still don't exist yet.
I think it depends on the area. I mean, I think there's certain areas that do require, this is where, this area of specialization is going, and we as an institution need to sort of shift and really to get on that. Some are more subtle as things evolve, and then some are absolutely brand new. And if you look at where institutions are, some are like, well, we didn't see that. That wasn't even an area of specialization 5 years ago, and now it's suddenly a hot topic. And so it really forces us to always do that sort of internal looking to see where we are, where the demands are, where our students see us going as being a part of that.
And this is no big secret. When the Minister of Jobs came to visit, he came armed with a plan because some sort of solutions need to be crafted while it's still possible to do so.
We have a declining population starting in 2030. So that means roughly 600,000 people, young people coming into the workforce. It means more net migration of people from other provinces to British Columbia. But it also means needing to make more investments to increase labor market participation. So more opportunities for people who are outside of the labor market to come back. So that means investments in childcare. That means investments in skills training to give people opportunities to come back into the labor market.
And Kalon is fully aware of the need to bring more seats closer to home, although mass increases have yet to be seen here in Prince George. Many programs and trades simply not available beyond hope.
The skills training piece is a big focus for us. We're going to continue to focus on not only providing the skills training opportunities, because we know that 80% of the jobs of the future are going to require either post-secondary education or some form of skills training, but we also know that we need to provide those opportunities closer to communities, because it doesn't work as well when people have to travel large distances to get those training opportunities. So that was a key focus for us.
And a labor market that at the moment is one where employees have a lot of leverage. More coming up after the break. Because of the mass shortage of, well, pretty much every kind of labor, it has truly become a buyer's market. You've heard about it in terms of real estate, but rarely does it become this way in terms of jobs.
It's tough right now, and long and the short of it is we need people and we don't have enough.
An American survey found higher wages for new hires are a must in the current market, but many more existing workers will need to see pay raises as the starting point for sticking around. And many are expecting a bump in 2022. Add that with taxes, it all leads to a higher cost of doing business.
The term war on talent is probably a little bit overused, but it describes it perfectly. The workforce is shrinking, the need for qualified people is increasing, and it's just getting harder and harder to find good quality people who are looking to work.
And that is a problem for sustainable business, while there is something that could help.
To leverage immigration.
It's going to be immigration.
If we can see some changes on the immigration policies.
It's not going to happen without immigration, and it's got to be smart immigration.
Again, not something new for Canada at all, but the backlog of over 2.5 million people as of the end of August is a major problem in terms of immigration, one that, if solved, could have a ripple effect, according to various industries.
As an example, I have 3 individuals on my team right now who've all applied through the new fast track system for their permanent residence. None of them have heard back. They have no idea where they are in the status. So now they've actually applied through the old kind of regular route as well, which doubles up the administration, doubles up the time. And there's certain things within that procedure, such as someone who has a Canadian university degree, been working for a Canadian financial institution for 2 years, and they still have to take time off and either drive or fly to Vancouver to do an English language competency test. It just is ridiculous. It seems very strange that someone who's graduated from a Canadian university has multiple years working at a major Canadian company, that there isn't another avenue for them. And that's something very unique to the North, because we don't have a testing facility here.
Otherwise, the vicious cycle continues. We take a look at some more solutions and ideas on how to solve it as a look into the labor force continues. Another piece to the puzzle of the labor force are the outside factors, putting serious implications on things, muddying the waters, if you will. It's these types of factors like housing prices that may have led to BC's northern capital having such a strong economy. That advantage may be fading, though, as the price of housing rises and childcare becomes a serious problem.
And we know that childcare has a societal benefit, and that's been talked about for a long time. But now, I think the public understands more than ever, there's a huge economic benefit because we've seen more, in particular women, come back to the workforce as childcare costs come down. The second is skills training opportunities. We have employers that are saying, we'll hire people right now. We are looking for 10, 20, 30 people, but we need the skills training. So we're working with the business community to say, why don't you take those people on as employees, and we'll create micro-credentials so that they can get quick training opportunities, they can learn on the job, they can come back to school and get micro-credentials. So we're trying to be flexible in our education system to meet the needs from the private sector.
For years, Prince George has been the ideal, cheaper destination marketed at Lower Mainlanders, and the population picture has changed as a result of that message. The latest census showed a big change. Now 52% of Prince George's roughly 77,000 person population is under the age of 40. Previously, it was the norm for most of the people here to be over 50 years of age.
We've always had a challenge in terms of recruitment, and that's why training people closer to home is absolutely essential. There are many studies that would tell you that when you train people closer to home, they're more likely to stay here. We've always had a challenge attracting people to the city and to the region, so we need to continue to find incentives, ways to encourage people. Certainly affordability has been one of the things that's helped us in the past, but even that is challenging for families now living here in Northern British Columbia. So again, we need to focus on training, retention of the professionals and the workforce that we currently have, and also look at what incentives does it take to encourage people to come and live here in Northern BC.
Big projects like Site C, the LNG pipeline, likely helping boost the number of younger folks, working age ones too, which makes it more important to keep them here and add more.
So let's look at a cost escalation. That's going to impact supply chain issues. That's going to impact labor. All those things together. If you're looking at your project book for the next years out, a lot of companies we're speaking to and seeing are saying, okay, we can't take this on now. We got to defer it. So that has a ripple effect too, to communities, to families, to investors, all that. So. It's not one thing, it's a few things, but labor certainly is just a significant piece to that.
3 sectors are projected to have the highest demand. First is our care economy. We know we're going to need more people, whether it's nurses, those that are taking care of our loved ones in our healthcare system, early childhood educators. We see huge demand there. A lot of that will be filled by people here. We've announced new additional nursing seats throughout British Columbia. It's going to require people who have come here through immigration who need some upgrading to take those opportunities. The second one is the tech sector. The tech sector is not a Vancouver thing. Tech sector is everywhere. If most people would not imagine what's happening in our resource development and the amount of technology that's involved, it's mind-blowing. And so we are seeing a huge demand throughout the province for tech sector related jobs. And third is construction sector. Right now, you've got housing going up everywhere here in Prince George. We've got housing all the way through the province. We have infrastructure being built, highest investment in public infrastructure in ever for BC. With all of that comes increased demand for work.
Between policy, innovation, and transition, the labor force will need big changes going ahead. It's an easy thing to ignore until it directly affects your life or your business. The cherry on top, for the time being, is inflation.
I think the biggest one right now that's affecting business owners, affecting individuals, is the inflation numbers. So until those inflation numbers start to normalize, everyone's going to feel it in their pocketbook. Whether you're working for salary, a small business owner, working in a major corporation, that impacts everyone. The federal government, with some of their monetary policy, is trying to do everything they can to bring those numbers in check, but there's so many other external forces that this isn't kind of your normal inflationary issues that we've seen in the past. So yeah, time will tell. As I said, no one has the crystal ball. We know that inflation needs to be controlled so that hopefully we get back to whatever the new normal is.
What the labor force will look like and when things will settle down are still two things many are watching with great intent in the coming months. Until then, inflation remains one of the top concerns for those in the industry and something that will likely affect you going forward as well. I'm Caden Fanshaw. Thanks so much for watching a look into the labor force here on CKPG TV.